What would be the biggest piece of advice you would give to somebody that wants to start their own company and they're scared and they just haven't taken the plunge? What would you tell them?
You know, it's actually an easy answer for me, but it might not be one people hear a lot. I'm not sure, and it's one that took me over 10 years of entrepreneurship to figure out. The emotional journey is as important as the intellectual building a company journey.
Mm,
Uh, and, you know, starting 3 companies has been quite the emotional journey for me.
I bet.
You know, looking failure in the face a lot, which I think every entrepreneur does.
Mhm.
The impact that it has on family relationships and romantic relationships and friendships. And it's not like the kind of thing that happens overnight, so you often don't see it happening.
Right.
It's like looking in the mirror every day and not seeing yourself get older or gain weight. It's like all of a sudden you wake up one day and you just realize like it happened slowly, but this is my whole life
Mm,
right now.
mhm.
And I think just it's going to happen whether you are prepared for it or not. It's just part of the thing. Like some things in life you just need to experience. But I think having a practice of a relationship with yourself, and getting to know yourself a little bit better and being vulnerable with yourself and other people about the emotional journey, having those outlets is absolutely critical.
Mm.
Or you will burn out. And like I have looked burnout in the face and seen what, and I would have burned out if now I didn't have a better relationship with myself. Most importantly, I have meditation practice that's been really important to me. It's been transformative for my life, and not a non-religious. It's funny when I used to hear people talk about meditation. I think that what's this like religious? It's not at all. It's just like in America, we work out our bodies physically, and I used to be someone that was worked out in the gym and kept myself in physical shape a lot. But we don't work out our minds. And
Right.
meditation is ultimately like working out your mind. It's just a
Mm.
deeper awareness of what's happening in our minds. I really highly recommend some level of that for people starting the entrepreneurial journey, ultimately just to enjoy the journey. And ironically, if your whole life is not dependent on the success, but you're still giving full forth effort, it's a much more enjoyable journey
Mhm. How
along the way.
about how about some quick advice for first-time CEOs? All of a sudden, they started a company, they're the CEO, and they have 10 employees, and they've never even been a supervisor before.
Uh, I'd say there's 2 quick things that come to mind. One is find a coach, someone who, and this for me, early days, so lucky to have people around me that could help me uh, manage the experience. Like I could go to them. It's, the entrepreneurial fraternity. It's like you could have a great relationship with your wife or your husband, but no one understands the entrepreneurial journey like another entrepreneur. So you need at least a couple of them in your corner that you can talk to.
Totally
Um,
agree.
and also, I think optimize for employees that understand that you're not perfect and that you're vulnerable with and understanding you don't have all the answers. Um, and share that a little bit. Like, don't try to be the hero. Be really vulnerable about things you know and don't pretend. Be honest with yourself and everybody about what you're good at and you need help with, and that will really really help. There's a temptation to want to think that you need to be the expert in everything. You need to know the best. I've ultimately become better as I've been able to be more vulnerable with my employees and people around me.
That's great. That's great advice. Great advice. Two more last questions. I'll make them fast. If you could call your 21-year-old self today and give that person any advice, let's say, the kid coming out of, undergrad, I'm guessing you're
Oh my
20,
God.
21 at the time. What would you tell that young man today?
22. Yeah. Oh my God. It's interesting. Like, there's a lot I'd tell him, but also maybe it all needed to happen in the order that it needed to happen. And I
Okay.
made a lot of mistakes and learned so much along the way, and I wouldn't change it. Like, enjoying that. I typically have been the type of person to be extremely hard on myself. Like,
Okay.
it's like I've talked to my therapist, which is also something that I recommend for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Uh, that I think,
By the way, meditation and therapist are two words I hear pretty often when I'm talking to a founder or a CEO, just so you know.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, but go ahead. Yeah.
No, I think there's a quote someone, I'm not going to get it right exactly recently. Let me actually you can give me 1 second. I actually have
Yep.
written
Yeah,
down.
go for it. I talk, as I talk to founders that have been in it for 3, 4, 5 years, they almost all of them talk about some form of having a coach or meditation or something to exercise their mind. So I was really glad you brought that up. But go ahead. You got the quote?
I do. Thank you. This really resonated with me recently. And the quote is, "What is a hero? Someone who has lived through pain and trauma and helped others because of it."
It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So like, I
I
think
like it.
a lot of times entrepreneurs or people want to be a
I
hero.
like it.
We want to hide our own traumas or
Right.
things we've gone through in life. But actually, if we can help other people because of it, that's the best way to go. And that's the idea of servant leadership, which I've not always been good at. I've often been terrible at, but is the way I try to be now. And I still don't always do it, but it's my goal.
Is that how would you define your core purpose in a sentence or two? Is that pretty close?
Definitely. I think before, my core purpose for my first 2 companies, honestly, was like, it was still mission driven, but I think it was probably a little bit more ego driven. Like this idea of like achievement in this American mindset of like achievement and materialism and individual success. And now I view it as like that the best thing we all need to do is create a better society, and we all benefit from that. And that's the goal. And that ironically, I think when I connect with people in that way and I see the impact on students, especially with Verto now, I get a lot more joy out of that. Like personally, I feel a sense in my body and in my heart, a lot more joy from that kind of impact than I do from a monetary success.